That was a fun swirl, right? Okay, my name is Jonathan, and this is episode 1 of Jonathan's Jewelers Bench Talk. And, you know, I've been on Facebook for quite a while, and I'm always answering people's questions that when they post stuff on how do I do that, what's the recommendation for this. So, in this episode, I actually had somebody email me yesterday, actually, and she wanted to know, her son is a very good artist, and she wanted to know, how does somebody really get into this business from the start? I mean, so I thought that would be appropriate for episode 1. How do you get started? And I guess so let's start a little bit with, a little bit about my background, because I haven't really talked about that. I've been in this business about 14 years. My brother and I had a jewelry factory in the Virgin Islands. We had averaged about 27 employees and up to 38 employees if we had a large order or the holidays. We were averaging about 400 to 600 pieces of jewelry every day. So yeah, that's a lot of jewelry. I was making jewelry for QVC, Sam's Club, catalog companies, and over 200 designers all over the place, from Hawaii, Alaska, the 50 states, Virgin Islands, New Mexico stuff, belt buckles, beads, toggles, fish, a lot of tropical stuff. I deal mostly with art jewelry, not so much in like the diamond ring stuff, but yeah, that is too. So a lot of people think, so here's a few pieces. So I thought what I would do today is take a look at what I got in my shop right now and see what I could do to help somebody get started. So here's some stuff that I am working on right now. And let's just go through it and see what's in here that we can look at that might help you with your very first design. So here's some pieces I'm working at. Okay. All right. That's a lot of silver. I got made a mess. Okay. So yeah, am I in the jewelry business? I think so. I think that proves my point. So, yeah. Okay. Hey. Okay, there's jewelry. So let's take a look at some pieces that might interest you for episode 1. I'm going to go through the biggest mistakes that the first piece that artists do. I had a workshop, and I had an artist in here, and this is what she designed as her first piece. She loves octopuses. It's actually a very good friend of mine. But look at the size of this thing. Here's a typical jewelry piece, like a little turtle. See the size? This octopus, I wrote it right here, so you can follow me around. Gold today is at $1,203 an ounce. If you convert that into silver, or into grams, we want to know grams. If you take the 1,203, divide it by 31.13, so ounces to grams, gives us $38.6 per gram for gold today. We want to convert that to 14 karat, which is 58 times 58%, is going to give us $22.50 per gram to cast this piece. Now, the octopus large, okay, I weighed this piece at 10.5 grams in wax. So we need to, we're going to try to estimate what this would weigh in silver. If you take the 10.5 wax weight, grams, times it by 10.4, that will give us an estimated weight of this in grams. So it'll weigh 109 grams in silver. Which is basically, silver today is at, if we take $16 an ounce for silver today, divided by 31.13 to convert it to grams, is 51 cents a gram for silver. That's not bad. That's really low. So this piece in silver, 109 grams times 51 cents per gram, is going to be $55 to cast this. If we calculated what this is going to cost in 14 karat gold today, it'll be $2,457. So weight is an issue when you're doing your first design. So please take into consideration size, weight. So what is an average weight of a piece? I have a couple samples. I have my horse heart pendant. I wrote that my horse heart weighs in at 9.1 grams. Okay. Earrings, I think you should be around 3 to 4 grams for an earring. And this is a very large horse heart. You can see the difference in size. This is two of my designs. This one is about 12 grams. So, and at 12 grams at 51 cents, you're looking at about $6 to make this large piece. So that's not too bad. Little rings like this little turtle ring, weighs around 3 grams, finished in silver. So let's, take weight into consideration because, we don't want to have to spend $2,000 to cast this thing. Let's talk about thicknesses and what is an acceptable thickness of your first piece. So some of the first tools you're going to want to buy are little gauges, little tools like this that will measure the thickness. I can take this, here's a little bezel. I'm going to measure this bezel, and down at the bottom, yeah, okay, we can read that. It's about 0.6 millimeters, and it looks like about maybe a 20 gauge bezel. So minimum thickness that I'm actually going to want to cast, that's even castable or manufacturable on a large scale, is about a half a millimeter. You send me something that's really thin, that's under a half a millimeter, is probably not going to turn out very well. So try to keep your designs over a half a millimeter thick, which I like my bezels around 20 gauge wire or 22 gauge wire. Get yourself a gauge micrometer, which will read how thick something is. Also get yourself a slide measurement in millimeters here. We're also going to talk about shrinkage and how things shrink. So I did a comparison for you. So here's my master. This is my master horse heart master that I made. And then I made a mold of this piece. So I made a rubber mold, silicone mold of it, and I get a wax. So I have a wax now. So then I get a wax copy. And then here is the finished casted piece. So I just wanted to estimate how much did I lose casting these pieces. So the master weighed 9.1 grams. The finished casted, unpolished, just right out of the cast. This isn't even polished. This is just casted the other day. Weighs 7.7 grams. So I actually lost quite a bit here. But you can see the difference. I actually lost about 1.4 grams of weight. I lost 1.4 grams, the difference between the master and the casted finish during the production, which is about an 8% loss in weight. So take into consideration, some people will make something like what they think it's going to be finished. You can't think about how it's going, and then of course when it goes through the process they get it back and they're like, well, it's shorter, it's shrunk, it's not the same size as what I wanted it finished. Well, take into consideration you're making a mold. When you make a mold, you shoot wax into it, the wax shrinks as it cools, and then when you cast something, metal shrinks as it cools. So take into consideration you want to make your original design 8% larger. And on average, that's actually, 8% is very large, because actually this is a very thick piece. On a ring, you're going to lose maybe 3% to 8% here. So consider that you're going to lose. So you always want to design something a little bit thicker and play it safe than have it turn out coming back to you and being too thin that it's going to break. Like a ring shank. It might be so thin that it's going to break. You're like, well, I designed it like, well, let's just look at this ring right here. Here's a ring. Let's measure this. This ring measures one millimeter. You can get yourself these tools so that you can measure how thick your original design is. This one's 1.5 millimeters as a sample. This little turtle with the bezel, the inside bezel is about 1.5 millimeters. So I also notice that heavy designs are hollowed on the back. Here's my horse. This is actually my horse, and hollow it out. And hollow it out to my specifications of no less than 0.5 millimeter. I actually like to do mine about 0.6 to 1 millimeter. This horse, if I was to measure it, casted actually, this is a casted piece. My finished piece, about 1.2 millimeters. So I like my pieces to be thick. So 1 millimeter is really nice for me. If I know, but I'm designing these for silver. So I don't mind if they have a little bit of extra weight. Designing for silver is different from designing to gold. Also, some things that are uncastable. Let's talk about uncastable, unmanufacturable. Here's something. So I got 2 pieces in here just recently. I want to talk about swirls because I know you're going to want to do swirls and you're going to do them. Everybody does them. What is acceptable? Here's a swirl. You can see that the swirl design goes about 1 turn on the top and goes 1 and 2 turns, you know, in the middle section. This one's really hard for me to manufacture, but it's doable and I get them. So 1.5 turns on the swirl. This one has a little swirl. Piece of cake because it's only like 1/2 turn here on the swirl. Now, I got a customer that sent me this design last week. You can see that it's very wiry, very filigree, and I knew at the second I got it that I wasn't going to be able to do this. But will it be manufacturable on a large scale? I'm not looking to make 1 of these. I'm looking to make 1,000 of these or 100 of them, whatever the customer wants over a period of years. So this piece, I made a mold. I did make a mold of it, and I tried to get it because I'm trying to make my customers happy. So here's the mold. And I could not get a wax. I already knew I wasn't going to. I had about 4 sprues on this thing trying to get wax into it. So no, it's not going to work. We're going to send this back. We're going to put a solid back on it now and make it solid. We're going to just put solid around the swirls, and we're still going to leave the cutouts, the 3 cutouts on the side, and we're going to leave a cutout in the middle. But where the swirls are, we're going to put a solid back, like a bezel back on it. And then I will be able to do this design like that. Another piece I haven't been able to get was this very complicated handmade wire ring. It's got, what's it got? It's got like, it's got leaves on it, it's got a dragonfly, it's got all of these undertucks, and you have to consider the mold needs to go into these crevices, and I could probably get this. I need to make it more solid. Because it's handmade, which means there's a lot of loops and holes in it, places that are not filled, that the rubber has to go into these little grooves. And to get this piece out of the mold is very complicated, and I just keep ripping it, tearing it, and it's not doable. However, I can do something like this one. It's very filigree. And something like this is very doable. This ring here is doable. It's got swirls on it. And let's look at the thicknesses, just out of curiosity. So this is a handmade wire ring from a silversmith, a friend of mine, and it looks like, it's about 18 gauge wire. 18 gauge wire on this handmade piece, which means when I cast it and I finish it, it's probably only going to be 16 gauge, or I might lose a gauge. So it's 18, it might be 17 gauge by the time I'm done and polished it. Remember, when you make a design, and like I said, people do designs and then they'll ship it to me and then they'll say, well, it doesn't weigh as the same. It's smaller. Yeah, I'm going to polish the heck out of this thing. I'm going to polish a gram off or something. I'm going to polish. You got to polish it. You got to grind it. You got to polish it. You got to finish it. So take into consideration your first design, the fact of all the processes that are going to happen when you make this piece, all of the grinding that's going to happen. It's going to go through a shrinkage with the casting.